Excellent. All right. Part of the Daily State News and Independent News Media Inc. USA network. This is the Disclosure Podcast. I am Logan B. Anderson, Managing Editor, and as always, I'm joined by
Kit Parker, the Web Editor,
and Joe Edelin, the State Government Reporter.
Cool. So if you're regular watchers of our show, you know that we're all still in the same clothes. It's all the same day. But we wanted to, we're talking about specifically a project that we've embarked on, focusing on poverty in the first state. And we're talking about specifically our reporting on that issue. The project is called Seeds of Need. And it's going to be a year-long project that sets out quarterly a series of stories, art, and graphics and information about poverty in the first state. In the last episode, we talked about how we laid out the plan, laid out the issue of poverty that. Essentially 1 in 10 people in Delaware are living at or below the poverty line. And in this episode, we're going to talk about what we called in our punch head the pulse of poverty, really looking at what state government has done in it. So, Joe, as our state government reporter, tell us about your reporting. What did you see?
Right. So the first step that I took was setting up an interview with Senator Sarah McBride and Russ Huxtable. Part of the reason why I picked that as my, as the first type of step in my reporting was Sarah McBride sponsored the Paid Family Medical Leave Act, which was passed and enacted in 2022, but it's not going to really be full up and running until January 1st, 2025. But that was a huge lift. There had been efforts to try to do that in the past that just never went anywhere.
So remind us what it does.
It's basically any health or family type of thing that you need to take leave from work, you can get pay that up to 12 weeks of leave. So that is something that was a big thing, and one of the things I was doing research of like different public policy polling. That's one of the biggest pieces of legislation across the nation that's like beneficial in eradicating poverty, because it gives people that comfort to know that they can take care of their own needs or their family's needs without being worried about where the money's coming, where their paycheck is coming from, and then that kind of just has a ripple effect on everything else, whether it's housing or healthcare, childcare, whatever the case may be.
Sure.
So that's where I started. And then Russ Huxtable, he was elected the last election in 2022, but before that, he had been on the forefront working in the housing area in Delaware and kind of developing solutions, affordable housing solutions up and down the state, but for him primarily in Sussex County, kind of working closely in that. But now in the General Assembly, obviously the tasks are a lot bigger than just, countywide. You're doing it, across the state. So it was interesting to hear from their point of view, like acknowledging what we've done, whether it's family medical leave, whether it's minimum wage, which is going up to $15, those things are beneficial, but there's other things that are, impacting, everyday Delawareans that are just, living paycheck to paycheck or just in general, whether it's housing or whatever. So.
Did you get the sense that the lawmakers were aware or knew, like, the numbers that there are, like the 1 in 10?
So I think that there was, yes, definitely. Like when I talked to them too, I definitely think so. And I think one of the reasons why too was because they just came out with the housing needs assessment last fall, and that kind of really underscored just the total, complete lack of affordable housing in Delaware. Delaware is short about like 21,000 affordable housing units or something like that. I think it was 21 or 22,000, give or take. But I mean that's bizarre. And there was so many other statistics that were outlined in that assessment that I think, especially for Senator Huxtable, it was more so like once January comes into play and we get back into leg hall, we got to get the ball rolling on this to provide that relief, as soon as possible. I think they were definitely aware of the numbers. I think there's just, I kind of said it last time, and you hear it a lot at leg hall, like what on bills that deal with poverty is it's like there's not a a magic bullet type of bill that's going to come
Sure.
out and eradicate, poverty. It's going to there's, it's a kind of a web you have to weave. But yeah, I think that they're definitely aware. And I think that, you can kind of see in their work that they are taking steps to try to, make life easier for people in Delaware.
Right, yeah. Well, let's hope they get to work. Yeah.
Well, if they have bills that they go through the process that they're going to improve, are there bills that are going to work against poverty? That
I think it depends how you see it. You know what I mean? I think that, you have, there's been a number of, tax type of bills that have come out where, you have, legislators that have said, we need to give a break to Delaware, Delawareans taxpayers, we need to give them a break, after all that's happened these last couple of years with COVID and just this uncertainty,
Right.
like week to week or month to month, giving back to the taxpayers was definitely something that I think, but I can't point to one or, any specific things that would, I don't think any of, the 62 members of the General Assembly are working to, counterintuitively, but
well, there's a, law.
unintended
there's
consequences.
Unintended consequences.
Yeah.
That's absolutely
For sure, but I think also too, you kind of see it with a lot of the bills that have been passed, there is a period of it being passed and enacted or signed into law, when it takes effect, and then when you're going to see the benefits of those effects. You know what I mean? So, one of the things Sarah McBride said was, passing paid family medical leave. It's not even up and running yet, but there's already been, in the private sector, a push towards giving those same type of benefits out. Because at the end of the day, if you're an employer, you want your employees to kind of have that comfort. It's only going to be beneficial for you.
Sure.
I totally, there's obviously other layers to that as well. But yeah, I don't know. It's
Sure.
interesting.
We were just recently talking about it, but it only takes one thing to throw you off, and then you don't have the holding on to your paycheck. If you don't, that just spirals down. I do understand the other side of that story is that the employers are going to have to pay that, and I feel like we went around and followed Senator McBride in our reporting about how this was, and we tried to do our best in reporting on both sides. But ultimately it got through, so I think it'll be good. Along with this issue, we had an infographic that laid out just 4 pieces of legislature that they either have been signed or are working through the process or passed. When I created this, all I did was go to the state government website and just went to the 152nd General Assembly and just searched the word poverty to see how much would come up. So there's interesting angles to it too. Representative Sophie Phillips has a bill that, did they just vote on this?
Yes.
That would allow provide assistance to folks living at or below the poverty level on multiple levels, access to support for electronic vehicle equipment and infrastructure. Right. Where is that bill?
That bill was out of committee. It was in committee last week, but that's one that's also been worked on for a while, trying to get it right. Finding the right way to kind of buy that. But also, I think that's more something kind of like what I was just saying before of there's going to be a grace period. I feel like that's something that if that becomes law is going to end up being really beneficial with knowing that starting in 2026, 2027 model year, that we're going to have these, clean car regulations. So it's I feel like there are a lot of proposals too that are out there that, kind of do similar type of things. Obviously not necessarily in the context of regulations, but.
But for those who don't know, will you give a brief civics lesson? It passes the House. How does it get to the governor's desk to be signed? Right.
So if a bill is introduced in the House, it'll go to its respective House committee. So I'll give an example. If it has to do with education, it'll go to the House Education Committee. If it passes, no amendments, or there can be amendments introduced along the way. It'll go to the floor. If that passes, it'll go over to the Senate, go to its respective Senate committee, and then if it passes there, it'll go to the Senate. And then if it does all 4 of those things, sometimes it's more, sometimes just depends on amendments and whatnot. Then it'll go to the governor and he can sign the law.
That's right. So the bills that we focused on in this infographic ran the gamut from Senator Dave Wilson down in Milford, who ran a accommodation for all the great work that the Food Bank of Delaware does, to Senator Brian Townsend, which his law is now law. His bill is now law that provides access to folks going through an eviction to have legal representation during that whole process. So there's a lot of different aspects to this poverty, the issue of poverty. Next in the series, in this issue, Craig Anderson, and you'll hear a little more from him in our next episode that we hope you tune into. But he was able to put a face on this story in a way that was moving and great. So he talked with Ms. Bolden in Wyoming about her issues and what it does, and ultimately it starts as a sad story, but the fact that she is just keep on moving on, I think there's some inspiration into that as well, I think. Kit, how can folks find these stories?
To read the Seeds of Need package, if you go to our website, which is betabaynews.com, you can scroll down to the disclosure section, and all of the stories so far and the future stories will be housed there. You can click on that section and you can see all of the wonderful reporting we've done in this, as well as all of our other topics, which we do have some on Pine Haven, which also goes back into ties with this type of a topic. So if you go there, you can see all of the articles.
Yeah, that's great. So thanks for tuning in. I hope you keep watching us. We're excited to be back in our 2024 season. And we're really excited about this project. I'm really proud of how it's working and the great work that our staff have done on it. So see you on the next one.